This is Small Business Conversations with Akona Machoba, unlocking essential advice, opinions, and key issues that affect South Africa's small business community.
Welcome to yet another edition of the Small Business Conversations podcast, Moneyweb's weekly SME show highlighting critical issues affecting South Africa's small business environment. This week on the podcast, we are taking the conversation out of our Houghton studios and to BP Southern Africa's offices in Rosebank to find out more about the fuel company's partnership with the government-owned Small Enterprise Finance Agency, SEFA, to fund the entrance of black businesses into the energy retail space. Now, according to research conducted by accounting firm KPMG, the global forecourt retail market was estimated to be worth around $190 billion in 2019, and this market is said to be growing faster in emerging markets. Also worth noting is the fact that in South Africa, the forecourt retail industry rakes in around 40 billion rand per year alone. And in light of this, BP Southern Africa says it wants to see more black-owned businesses playing in the space, and as such, the fuel company has dedicated an investment of 58 million rand to help these businesses acquire and operate service stations and related convenience stores at key points around the country. Take a listen to the conversation I had with BP Southern Africa CEO Taelo Mojapelo and SEFA CEO Mxolisi Machamba as we speak about their decision to partner on this project. Thank you for joining me on the Small Business Conversations podcast, Taelo Mojapelo. I really appreciate your time. We are here today because BP Southern Africa has officially signed on the dotted line to partner with SEFA to support black-owned businesses in the fuel service station and forecourt retail business. Can you speak to me about why BP has chosen to enter this partnership?
Thank you, Akona. We've chosen to enter this partnership because we do believe that we will be better off with a more diverse and inclusive economy. For far too long, we've had, a large part of the community not having access to financing in order for them to be entrepreneurs. And some would really are great entrepreneurs and would like to get into this space, but actually don't have access to funding. So the partnership with the Small Enterprise Finance Agency is critical for us because it enables us to use the strengths of both the entities in order for us to achieve that. And as BP, we obviously are putting in the seed financing for that, and SEFA has the tools and strengths, the tools to determine, profitability and financial viability in the long term, and they will also be putting in some of their funding in order for this to become a reality. We do envisage that, when this is a success, you will have a fundamentally different energy landscape. You'll have a fundamentally different participation profile in the energy business.
Mm-hmm. And speak to me about that investment that you touch on. What is the level of investment that BP is looking to plow into this initiative, and also with regards to the mentorship support, what could participants expect?
Yeah. So the transaction itself is just under 58 million rands that we're putting in. And obviously, when you go into such initiatives, because you are targeting mostly the previously disadvantaged, you'd like to make sure that you have the right support. So in so doing, we have a structured mentorship program to ensure that the dealers that then join us and come on board are well equipped to fast learn. So we obviously try to select people with high learning agility, and these are people that would then be able to quickly understand what fuel retailing and convenience retailing is about, and treat it as a commercial entity which can then be successful over the years. And as they employ more people, they would also benefit from that employment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we already know that you are targeting specifically black-owned businesses, but I'm wondering, is there a certain focus on certain geographies where you're trying to target certain locations, or is that open to whoever makes the cut?
It's open to whoever makes the cut, but what determines how we select is whether that potential franchisee is willing or able to operate in our geographies. So as you'd recognize, we are not spread throughout the country. And as part of our strategy, we currently are spread in the 3 geographical areas that are most economically active, which is Gauteng, KZN, and the Cape Western Cape area. But with our strategy that we are progressing, that's actually in execution, we'll be targeting also fast and upcoming locations that are developing, as well as highway sites that we are looking, highway and what we call transit sites that we're looking to invest in. And we expect that dealer should be willing to be present at a full-time basis in those locations that we choose.
And one thing that I want to touch on, we know just in our own communities that service stations play a big part in the economic activity that are in communities. And I'm wondering now, with this initiative, what is the kind of returns that you're hoping to see in terms of economic growth for the country with this rollout plan that you have?
Yeah, so as BP, we participate in the economy.
Very much.
So I wouldn't necessarily say, as a result of this initiative, the economy is going to grow X%. That isn't correct. However, what is true is in the areas where we will be investing, we do envisage that you would have increased economic activity, because typically with the new retail sites that we bring on, it is not just a destination for your fueling. It's actually a destination of convenience. And of convenience means you want to stop there, and you also want to be able to get your bread and milk, or you want to be able to get food that you can put in your microwave later, or you want to get drinks that you want to drink now. And that is something that we need to recognize as this is the changed environment. And in some instances, someone may want to drop a post box or something of that sort, buy airtime, the different things. And so we need to see them as destination locations where you actually get to do a lot more. And in so doing, you're participating in the economy. But also, what is true is when you now start focusing on economic redress, you have a lot more economically active people that were previously not active. And as they become active, it therefore means that you've got communities that are benefiting from that, from either their income or from the entrepreneurship that goes around in that area.
And touching on the private and public partnership aspect of it, we've seen how private players have been calling on government kind of to bring them on board to help fix the problem and to participate in the solution, that the problem that we have in our country. There's too many to name in this interview, but I'm just wondering what your comments are in the fact that now we're starting to see kind of real-time movement from the part of government in calling on private players to be part of the solution to the problem. What is your view and sentiment on that progress? Are you pleased that we're finally making headway in this relationship with government?
Yeah, so as BP, we've also participated and signed up to the joint working groups with government on the initiatives around fixing the 3 priority areas. So those are really key for us, and I think transport and logistics is one of them. And our retail sites are located in those areas, and I think it's a good thing that we are partnering together. And the one commitment that we've all made to each other is to call each other out when something is not working. So this provides a good framework for us to do that. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
And finally, a very contentious point here is the transformation aspect. So we will see that people are quite on different sides of the aisle when it comes to empowerment policies and any transformation policy that may be put in place. People may feel like we are 3 decades in, it's too late now. If it's not sorted, let's just move on and every man for themselves. What is your perspective on that kind of ideology and thinking from certain parts of society that transformation is over now? We can't be thinking about those policies.
Transformation is good business. If you think about it, we sometimes like to refer to what the US recently did with their transformation, but they've been at it for so many years. It takes longer than 30 years to make a meaningful change. And I think this is something we need to continuously focus on. And when I talk about transformation, I sometimes also give the example of the rugby team. They've been at it for so many years with slow starts, and you can start to see the fruits of the initiatives that have been done, but it also took dedicated leaders and captains of that industry to ensure that actually it progresses. And we need to keep doing that. And I think as BP, we like to consider ourselves as champions of diversity and inclusion. And for us, transformation is something that we will continue to do for as long as South Africa needs it, and the statistics are there for all to see that South Africa needs it.
Thank you so much for your time, Mojapelo. I really appreciated speaking to you. That was my conversation with BP South Africa's CEO, Taelo Mojapelo. Now to turn the focus on the conversation with SEFA CEO, Mxolisi Machamba. So we're going to start off the conversation just on SEFA's role in this partnership with BP.
Correct.
We cannot deny the immense role that you guys have played in supporting small businesses. In fact, that is your critical mandate.
Correct.
From your perspective, what does this partnership with BP mean for SEFA in respect of your mandate to support SMEs?
This is a very, very strategic relationship for SEFA, because one of the things that people tend to forget, government does not have endless resources. And in order for government to reach more of our target markets, we need these partnerships with the private sector. We always spoke about, even during the big administration, that government has to crowd in the private sector so that to unlock the balance sheets of the private sector to finance businesses and also invest into the economy. So one of our key strategic objectives as SEFA is to build partnerships with the private sector with a view to unlock the balance sheets of the private sector. For example, BP is putting 48 million rands. We're going to match that 48 million rands with our own balance sheet. But if we were to do this work alone, it was going to be double that budget from government alone. But now, because we've decided to partner with the likes of BP, we are able now to offload at least 50% of that to the private sector. And the beauty about this relationship is that BP is not a fly-by-night company. They've been in the space for quite some time, and they've got systems and processes to assess and support their franchisees. And that protects our book as SEFA, because the chances of the deal collapsing are very minimal because of the support that BP provides to their franchisees, and also our post-investment support. So it's a very, very strategic relationship, and we want to build more of those, because that government, the fiscus is constrained.
Yes.
And what do? You have to unlock the balance sheets of the private sector. But the only way you can do that is to give the private sector the confidence that their money is protected and it will provide returns to the investors. And those are the deals that we want to focus on.
And I think one critical question before we go into the bigger government and private sector partnership that people want to know is, who qualifies for this? Who gets to approach SEFA and say, look, I want to do this? Is it someone who's already in this kind of business, who is already in the fuel service station, forecourt retail business, or someone who knows nothing really but has the drive and the time to do it?
There is no preference for anybody with experience, but it is an added advantage, I must say. One of our most successful dealers with another brand that I will not name, the guy was a teacher. He is one of the biggest in the oil industry now, with brands in the oil space. And when he left teaching, he was not working in the oil industry. He was not in business. He left teaching, he gave it a try. With his first station, I think it was in PE, with another brand. I think now is close to 15 of these brands nationally. So anybody who's got the business acumen, I must say, or at least the willingness to learn. For example, we also target youth as one of our designated groups within SEFA, which is women, youth, and people living with disabilities. In the majority of times, the youth, they come raw from university and they don't have any experience, which is quite high risk for us, because now these characters are big dreamers, and you need to bring some sense of reality. And when they come through franchising, because it's a tested concept, it protects us, because there's a high degree of support, as I said, and it's not a new concept. And to us, you can come as long as you have the willingness. We call it the jockey. If the jockey has got the commitment, because one of the things we look at as SEFA, because we don't fund based on collateral, we fund on the basis of the cash flow generation capacity of the deal. Then we say, okay, this deal ticks all the boxes in generating cash flow, but can the jockey ride the horse. And you look now at the capacity of the applicant, trainability of the applicant. Sometimes we find youth who are still at university applying for funding, and we say you can't part-time business. You have to be there. And I usually argue that maybe you should start the business and start a part-time, but you cannot part-time the business because we want the jockey to be there 100% of the time. So the opportunities are open to those who are willing to learn, and those who have got experience, not necessarily in the oil industry, because I believe if you've got experience in business, the business principles are the same. I started my career in the oil industry, and I ended up in government policy and economic development. Now I'm in development finance. But to me, the experience, you can never replace the value of experience. But it doesn't mean if you don't have experience, you can't be given an opportunity.
One thing that we have seen, at least in the podcast and the conversations we've had, is that people might have great ideas, but they don't have the knowledge needed to go further and take it to the next level. Can you speak to me on the post-investment mentorship that CIFA will be offering these businesses or these entrepreneurs that you work with?
Look, once we do, during the due diligence process, even what we call basic assessment, where we're just testing your basic qualification requirements for the deal, then we say, okay, you meet these what we call these requirements, then we take you to the next level, which is the due diligence stage. You can identify that this person lacks in these particular areas. And then when the deal gets to the credit committee, we insist that the risk here is around the experience of the jockey. Therefore, you need to allocate a mentor that we pay for, by the way, as CIFA, to assist this entrepreneur. During that time, there's usually tensions because the entrepreneur believes, this is my show, I know what I'm doing, I don't need some old guy from industry to tell me how to run my business. But we say, as long as you owe us money, this old man or woman will be here to provide you with the guidance.
Sure.
And then that's what we want to do, because we're saying now, we're even reviewing the panel of our what we call mentors, because we find that they are generalists. You can't go from being a retail restaurant mentor and mentor a guy who's in the mining space. You need a mentors from the mining industry. Exactly. You must be a sector specialist there to provide the support. The same principle applies here. It's an oil industry. One can argue is retail, it should be the same thing, but retail has got what I call the oil industry has got its own unique challenges. You need somebody, yes, who's got a retail background, but you must have the oil industry background, a retail business experience, and we want to strengthen that, because most of the businesses where we provided targeted and sector-specific mentorship, they've succeeded. And success to me is a business, because one of the measurements that we use at CIFA is a percentage of our funded clients who have grown their businesses to another level and their sustainability beyond the first 5 years, which is usually the dying zone of SMMEs.
Yes, we've heard that. We've heard that quite a bit.
So we want you to go past the 5-year period. If you sustain your business beyond that 5-year period, you should be able to navigate the industry.
And then finally, Mr. Machamba, I just want to touch on the government and private sector partnerships. We've seen this is a trend now that government is taking further steps in Transnet with other sectors of the economy. We're seeing this pattern, and you also just touched on it earlier. And I'm just wondering, recently there was a signing of a CEO pledge to support this initiative. And what has come out of that is that we need at least 3% growth to kind of prevent our economy from being stagnant. And I'm wondering, what role then do SMMEs play in contributing to that growth that they're speaking of?
Look, if you look at the major economies, the contribution of the SMMEs to the GDP of the country is in your 60s and above. We want to be in the 70s. You look at Japan. Japan's contribution of SMMEs is in the 70% to the GDP of the economy. You go to China, even though there are big enterprises in China, but in Taiwan, you'll be surprised by the number of SMMEs who are involved in the value chain. I visited Taiwan some time back, and I found this guy manufacturing mirror covers for Toyota Yaris. And he was not in a big industrial park. He was working in a small 200 square meter factory, supplying the panel beaters in Taiwan. And in South Africa, we think you must have a massive warehouse to be able to do this work. So we want, our road is clear. If this economy is going to shift, we need to see the growth of SMMEs in this country. The big conglomerates are not going to leave this economy alone. And there is a need to provide access to finance for SMMEs. I mean, there's a shortfall of about 320 billion rands as we speak of SMME funding. I fund maybe per year I'll hit about 1.8 billion, 2 billion. That's nothing given what the economy is looking for. And then now what you want is these conglomerates like BP must form these backward linkages where they include the SMEs in their supply chain so that they can start at that level to get the work that actually adds value to BP itself, but also you are giving them what we call a footing into the industrial space. But we need, as government, number one, because one of the key things that people ignore, deal packaging. Most of our guys, they fail to get their deals through the system because they don't have the capacity to package the deal. Then beyond that is after funding, you need to provide market access. That market access includes partnerships with the likes of BP. For example, one of the things that we're doing, we want to work with Tiger Brands on the aggregator model, where we want to say aggregate these SMMEs. Tiger Brands has done it successfully because what they do, they aggregate different farmers to supply their value chain, and then, but they will hire a specialist who will manage those 5 farmers, provide them funding. Tiger Brands now, they buy equipment for them, they provide with irrigation systems, and then they offtake the produce at the end of the season, and through the offtake, the SMME pays back the Tiger Brands what we call a loan. And we're saying aggregation model works. Even globally, they will tell you that it's the best approach to support SMMEs because there's an expert. It's not just a mentor, that one. An aggregator, his or her life every day is to make it a point that those 5 farmers that he or she is responsible for, they've got all the support technically that they need. I mean, and these are not new things, you know. It's just that we forgot after our transition some of the things that were done in the previous regime. For example, there was what was called in the country potato board. It was a co-op doing marketing for the farmers who are producing potatoes because they're not in the business of marketing. There was a maize board. You name them, you know. And we're saying, let's aggregate and work actually through that technical support to make these SMMEs successful.
And there you have it, the CEO of BP South Africa, Dialo Mujapilo, and SIFA CEO Olisi Machamba speaking about how they'll be working together to usher in more black-owned businesses into the energy retail space. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and follow Small Business Conversations, and don't forget to share our episodes. If you want to contribute to the conversation, you can tweet me at machoba_a, or you can email us at smepodcast@moneyweb.co.za to share your thoughts and suggestions for future conversations.
You've been listening to Small Business Conversations with Akona Machoba. To listen to more Moneyweb podcasts, go to moneyweb.co.za, the Moneyweb app, or your favorite podcast platforms. Moneyweb, your trusted source for business and investment insights.